In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to control your Home Assistant entities with Minecraft. Check it out. What's going on, guys? I hope you're all doing well. Just over a week ago, a user by the name Tool32678, otherwise known as Owen, posted a video on Reddit showing how you can use Minecraft to control entities in Home Assistant. In Owen's video, he shows you a demo of him using a Home Assistant switch to toggle the state of a Minecraft lever, and vice versa with the lever controlling the state of Home Assistant lighting. If you're interested in this, I'll have a link to the original Reddit post in the description below. To create the initial demo, Owen used a server plugin called Script, and he actually shared the script that he used in that Reddit post. So if you're interested in that, go and check that out. In addition to being shared on Reddit, Owen's video was also shared on the official Home Assistant blog. And from this initial Reddit post, a user by the name Clickini, otherwise known as Andy, decided that they wanted to take this idea and turn it into a dedicated Bukkit plugin. And that brings us on to today's video. So both Andy and Owen are now working together on creating this server plugin, which is going to allow you to use Minecraft to control Home Assistant entities. So if you're a fan of Minecraft and you're also a Home Assistant user, this is going to be a fun project for you. To get started with this project, there's going to be a few things that we need. First of all, we're going to need a working version of Home Assistant. We're then going to need a copy of Minecraft, and it needs to be the Java edition of the game. We're also going to need to be running a Minecraft server. In this example, I'm going to be using PaperMC, and I'm going to be running through the whole setup and install of PaperMC. We're also going to need to download the Mine Assistant plugin, and optionally a second plugin which is going to be used to help us manage server permissions. And if you have got all of these things, there's going to be just one thing that you need to do if you're not already, and that's hit that subscribe button and ding dong the notification bell. You'll then be alerted to any future videos that I do. Okay then, let's get this project started. So if you're at this point of the video, I'm assuming you've got a working version of Home Assistant and you've also got Minecraft Java installed. The next thing we're going to need to do is just head over to Bukkit, and there's a link for this in the description below. And we're just going to download the Mine Assistant plugin. We're just going to click this download latest file in the top right here. And we're just going to save the file on our desktop. So we're going to click save, and then we're just going to choose our desktop. Next up, we're going to download PaperMC, and again, the link's in the description. So open that up, and we're just going to download the latest version of PaperMC. So we're just going to click download there. And again, we're just going to save it to our desktop. This next download is an optional one. It's called LuckPerms, and what it's going to allow us to do is to just modify the server permissions on our Minecraft server. You don't have to use it, but it is just a nice and simple way of making those changes. But if you are happy with just manually making the changes yourself, you can do that. Again, links in the description, and we're just going to download the Bukkit version there. And again, we want to just save that to our desktop. On our desktop, we should now have those three files. The next thing we're going to need to do is to just create a folder to contain these things. So let's do that now. So we're just going to right click and we're going to choose new and folder. We're then just going to give this a name. I'm just going to call it server. And in the folder that we've just created, we're going to just drag in the PaperMC jar file. We're now just going to open up that server file. And in there, we should have that PaperMC jar file. So this PaperMC jar file is your Minecraft server, but in order to run that, we're going to need to create a batch script. So let's do that now. So we're going to open up Notepad, and we're just going to paste in a script that I've already created. And what this script does is just execute that jar file. So in here, there's going to be a few things that we need to change. We're going to need to change the file name of our jar file. The easiest thing to do here is to just rename the jar file. So here I've got it called paper-721.jar. So if we go to the file here, and we just rename that to be paper-721.jar. That's that first one done. Next up, you're going to need to just tweak the amount of RAM that you're going to give the server. So in here, I'm giving it 8 gig of RAM. So you'd need to change this number here and here to match whatever system specification you have. So for example, if you wanted that to just be 4 gig, you change that number 8 there to just be 4. Once we've changed the file name and set the amount of RAM, we're just going to click File, and we're going to go Save As. We're then just going to navigate to that folder that we created. So my one was called Server, and it's on the desktop. And we're just going to give this file a name. So I'm just going to call it Run. And the important part here is that you give the extension .bat, so mine's going to be called run.bat. And in the second drop down here, we need to change the save as type to be all files. And then we're just going to click save. We can then just exit out of that. The next thing we're going to need to do is just run that batch file. So we're going to double click on run.bat, and you'll then see a pop-up with a command window, and it's just going to start running through and downloading everything that you need for that Minecraft server. When that's running, it should error and it's going to tell you it failed to load the EULA. So in the console window, we're just going to click any key. In our server file, we should now see some extra files that have been added. One of them is going to be this EULA.txt file. So we're just going to right click on that, and we're going to choose edit. And in this file, we're going to need to just update it to accept the end user license agreement. To do this, we just modify this false at the end here, and we just change it to be true. Once you've changed that to true, we're just going to click file and save. And having set the license agreement to be true, we're just going to run our run.bat again. And it should then just continue and start running and downloading everything else it needs. So just give that a couple of minutes to do its thing. Once you see that say done in the console window, we should be good to go and the server should be up and running. We can further test this by clicking multiplayer and clicking add server. We're then going to enter the server address localhost and choose done. We should see the little green connection, which will let us know that the server's on. And if we click on the server and click join server, it should connect us to the game. On the left there, you can see it says that I joined the game, and on the right, you can see that I'm actually in the game on the server. So let's just disconnect from that and close Minecraft down for now. And then on our server, we're going to just type in stop, and we're going to hit enter. And then we're just going to click enter when it says press any key to continue. In the server folder on our desktop, we should now see a whole bunch more files that have been added during the creation of the server. The folder that we're interested in here is the plugins folder, and we're just going to drag and drop our 2 other jar files into this plugins folder. In the plugins folder, if we open that up, there's now a couple of things in there. So we've got the Look Perms if you choose to add this one, and we've also got the Mine Assistant plugin. If you wanted to add any of the plugins to your server, you could also just drag and drop those straight into this plugins folder here. We're just going to go back to the top level of the folder here, and we're going to just run that run batch file again. This time when we run the server, we should see a few extra things. So we can see here it loaded the Look Perms and the Mine Assistant plugins. It then enabled the Look Perms plugin, and it tried to enable the Mine Assistant plugin. And in the console window there in yellow, we can see that there was a warning for the Mine Assistant plugin. So we're going to fix that warning now. So we're going to just close the server again. And now back in our server file, if we go back into plugins, we should see we've got these extra files for Look Perms and Mine Assistant. So we're going to go into Mine Assistant, and we should see a config file inside of Mine Assistant there. So we're just going to right click on that config file, and we're going to choose open. This config file is the file that's going to tell Mine Assistant where our Home Assistant's located. It's also going to give Mine Assistant access to our Home Assistant instance. So there's going to be 2 bits of information that we need to provide to the config file. The first one is the Home Assistant URL. So this is just your Home Assistant URL that you use to access your Home Assistant instance. And the second one is the Home Assistant token. Now this is the Home Assistant long life token, and you can actually generate those from within Home Assistant. So let's go ahead and fill this config file in now. We're just going to open up Home Assistant and we're going to grab our URL. If you already know the IP address of your Home Assistant, you can just write that straight in. So we're going to copy and paste this. And then back in our config file, we're just going to paste the URL in here. And that's the first bit of the config done. Next, we're going to generate that Home Assistant token. So back over in Home Assistant, we're just going to click on our profile at the bottom left there. On the profile page then, we're just going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we can see the tokens there, and we're just going to choose Create Token. It's then going to ask us to create a name for the token, so I'm just going to call this one Mine Assistant. And once we've given it a name, we're going to click OK. We'll then be given our token, so we just need to copy and paste that. And then back over in the config file, in the token section, we're just going to paste that in. And we're going to choose Save. So we've set our Home Assistant URL and we've given it the token. There's now one parameter left, which is the input mode. In Mine Assistant, there's 2 different input methods. The first one, which is the default one, is interact, and the second one is redstone. With the interact method, a player needs to have the has.use permission enabled in order to actually be able to trigger a Home Assistant entity. This kind of adds a little bit of security to the server because a player has to have the has.use permission in order to be able to run an action. So with the interact input method, you have to have the has.use permission enabled as an individual player in order to actually run actions. For this demo, I'm going to be making use of the redstone mode because that's more true to the gameplay, and you can use redstone then to trigger your Home Assistant entities. The redstone mode is less secure, and that's just because it doesn't require the has.use permission, and it's not actually checking if a player has that permission before it's firing off the event. So any player could just trigger some redstone and it could cause things to happen within your house, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a player. It could be a world event, it could be the sunlight changing and affecting a sunlight sensor, or it could be a mob moving around or just walking into, some of your redstone. So do bear that in mind when you're setting up your redstone wiring. So that's a quick look at the input methods. So just to quickly recap, the first option then, the interact method, that requires a player to have the has.use permission enabled in order to actually be able to trigger Home Assistant events. The second method, that redstone one, doesn't require that has.use permission, but both of those methods require the has.link permission. So that's quite straightforward. You've got two different input methods for controlling what a player can do and how certain events are triggered. You've then also got two different permissions. You've got the has.link and the has.use. Has.link is the permission you need in order to actually make use of the has command. This is what allows you to link a Minecraft block to a Home Assistant entity. And has.use is going to be the permission that you need when your input mode is set to interact and you want to be able to actually make use of the Home Assistant interactions. Now, if that doesn't make sense, then don't worry, because all of Andy's handy documentation is going to be linked in the description below. And while we're here in the documentation, I'll just quickly show you all of the different supported blocks. So we've currently got buttons, levers, pressure plates, doors, trapdoors, fence gates, tripwire hooks, signs, and the daylight detector. And you can see in this nice little table here, we've got a list of the supported blocks, and then we've also got the input and output interactions for each of those blocks. This documentation is available on the Mine Assistant GitLab project. So in addition to the documentation on supported blocks, you've got things like the permissions, which I just showed you. There's some examples there with some videos that Owen's put together. You've got the configuration, the available commands, and there's also some handy troubleshooting tips in there too. This is also going to be the place that you go to report any issues you've got with the Mine Assistant project. So that could be things like bugs or unexpected behavior. To do this, all you're going to need to do is to just create a free GitLab account. Once you've got that account, you can go into issues and then you can just choose new issue. Before you create your issue, just first check that there's not a similar one already listed. If there is, you might want to just add your own contents to that one. And if there's not, just create a brand new one and try and give as much detail as you can. I'm going to set my input mode to be redstone, and all I need to do for this is just update the interact text here and just change it to be redstone. And once we've done that, I'm just going to click save. And that should be the config now complete. With the config file filled in, we can head back to our server file and we can run the batch file again. This time when it runs, we should see no warnings or errors in our console. With our server up and running, we can now open up Minecraft, and if we click play multiplayer, we'll see the Minecraft server that we added at the beginning. I'm just going to press on this now. Now that I'm connected to the server and my character's in the game, there's going to be a few permissions that I give myself. First of all, I'm just going to op my player. This is going to give my player the admin abilities. This is just optional, you don't have to do this, but this is going to allow you to have admin access whilst you're in game. And to do this, all we do is type op and then our player name. Next up, I'm just going to give my player all of the Mine Assistant permissions. Now, currently it is only 2, and you can manually add them individually if you want to. But using this command here is going to add both of them at the same time. So we're going to type that out and just hit enter. And you can see there I've got a little message to tell me it was successful. Now we're actually using the look perms permissions here just to make this a bit easier. So this command here has given me both the has.use and has.link permission. So my character now has both of those permissions enabled. And now that we've got those, we can jump straight into the game. So at this point, you're now actually ready to start playing around with Mine Assistant. So you've got your server set up, you've given yourself your permissions. Now all you need to do is start linking your Minecraft blocks to Home Assistant. I'm just going to show you a couple of quick demos to get you started with using Mine Assistant. I'll then show you a couple of quick demos that Owen's put together, and after you've seen these, you should have a good understanding for how Mine Assistant works, and you should be able to create some crazy Home Assistant Minecraft mashups. On the left here, I've got a running version of Home Assistant. Just at the top here, we've got the console log, and then we've got the actual Minecraft window here. So let's jump into the game and I'll show you how you go about connecting your blocks to Home Assistant. So in the game here, I've currently set my mode to creative and just given myself a few different items. We've got this redstone lamp placed here, and I'm just going to put a lever on the top. The first thing we're going to do is just link this lever to the garden lights toggle on the left there. To do this, we need to make sure we're looking at the lever, and I can see the bounding box around the lever there, so I know it's looking at it. And we're just going to press the chat button. In my case, it's just the default key, which is T. I'm then going to type /hash. And when I type /hash, it actually brings up a list of all the different entities that are exposed in my Home Assistant. So I could actually just scroll through this list and just pick one. If you happen to know the name, like we do with this one, you can just start typing it. So I'm going to start typing garden. And I can see there it's suggesting the input boolean garden lights. So I can just press that. And then I can hit enter. And you'll see there I've got the little message to tell me that the lever has been linked. Now when I toggle this on, we should see the garden lights on the left there turn on. And again, if we turn it off, and back on, and off. And this also works both ways. So if I turn the garden lights on, we should see the redstone lamp here also turn on. And again, if I turn it off. In my Home Assistant demo I've got set up on the left here, this garden lights is just an input boolean, so I could actually link that to anything, and turning that on and off could trigger an automation, a scene, or anything else. Owen and Andy wanted to keep the Minecraft feel with this plugin, so rather than using an unlink command to actually disconnect the light from the lever, you actually just need to break the block. And once you break the block, you'll get a little message to tell you that it's been unlinked. So let's place down another lever, and this time we're going to connect it to the fairy lights. So again, we're just going to place this down, make sure we're looking at it, and we're going to type /hash, and this time I'm going to put fairy lights. And again, that's connected, so if I toggle that on, we should see the fairy lights come on, and if I toggle it off, the fairy lights will go off. In this demo, that fairy light is a Tuya smart plug, so it works quite quickly if you think it's going from Minecraft to Home Assistant out to Tuya and back. So let's have a look at some other things you can do. So we've got a pressure plate here, and we've also got a button. With the pressure plate, we're just going to look at it and we're going to connect this to the garden lights. And with the pressure plate, when we walk on this, it should turn that garden light switch on. So it's on whilst I'm stood on it, and if I get off it, it goes back off. And as we're in redstone mode, it's not just the players that can interact with the Home Assistant entities, it's also the mobs. So this chicken here, if we get it to walk on that pressure plate, you'll see that the garden light is now on. And if the chicken gets off the plate, it should turn the garden lights off. So just be careful with anything you leave lying around if it's connected to your Home Assistant entities. With this button, let's try something a bit different. So rather than turning on a plug or turning on an input boolean, let's trigger a script. So we're going to look at the button, and again, we're going to do /hash, and I'm going to give it a script. In this demo, I've only got one script, so this is the ID for that particular script. I'm just going to hit enter and link them together. So this button is now linked to a script, and the actual script that this is linked to is just a script that creates a persistent notification, and that notification just creates a message to say Minecraft message. So let's press this now and see what happens. So we can see on the left there that's created a notification, and we can see the little orange one, and if we check that out it should say Minecraft message. Or rather, this is a notification from Minecraft. The last demo I'm going to quickly show you is just using signs. So with signs, you can actually represent entity information from Home Assistant on a Minecraft sign. So let's do that now. We're just going to place a sign down, and we're not going to type anything in it. We're just going to press done. And while we're looking at the sign, we're just going to use that hash command again. And we're going to connect it again to the garden lights. You may notice on the end of garden lights here, it tells me that it's linked, and this is just telling me that this particular entity is already linked to something within Minecraft. But for this example, that's fine. We're just going to hit enter. And then on that sign now, we've got the name of our entity, and we've also got the state that it's currently in. So again, on the left there, you can see that the garden lights are off. So you can see that it's also off on the sign. If we head over to our pressure plate here that we created earlier, which is also linked to that, and then we stand on it, we can see that the garden light sign now tells me that it's on. So this is a really cool one for relaying information about Home Assistant into Minecraft. Owen did mention that there's a to-do list with signs, and one of the things that they're going to try and get working with signs are template entities. So you'll be able to display your templated entities on a Minecraft sign. And if we just jump off this pressure plate, we should see that sign again update to off. And there we go. So that's just a quick demo of some of the things that you can do with Mine Assistant. On the Mine Assistant GitLab page, there is also a few different video examples that Owen's put together. In one of them, he's using a button to send notifications to a mobile device. And in another one, he's opening and closing a Minecraft door based on the state of a real life door. And there we go guys, that's Mine Assistant. Let me know in the comments below what you plan on creating with this plugin. I really like this project and I'll be keeping up to date with it as it develops and progresses. Obviously, I'm a massive Home Assistant fan, but I'm also a massive Minecraft fan. And a fun fact for you, I actually did my university dissertation on Minecraft. If you're familiar with creating server plugins and you're interested in Minecraft and also Home Assistant, why not submit your crazy ideas and become a contributor for the project? A massive thank you to Andy and Owen for all the work you've done so far. Also thank you for letting me have an early preview of Mine Assistant. And as I said, I'll be revisiting this project, so any changes or new features that are added, I'll cover those in a little spotlight video. I'm also going to let my kids have a play around with this on the weekend, so I'll see what crazy things they do to destroy my Home Assistant from within Minecraft. If you're interested in seeing that destruction pan out, then be sure to be following me on my social media accounts, which are all linked in the description below. Before I go, just a massive thank you to these awesome dudes. These awesome dudes are my Patreons. If you're interested in supporting my channel, then there'll be a link for my Patreon in the description below. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.